Welcome to another episode of ABCD Talk Show, where we explore the intersection of mental health and cutting edge technology. I am Kaustubi, and today we have a very special guest who is making remarkable contributions to mental health research through technology. Joining us is Dr. Manjusha Joshi, a director at SensoAct Innovations Private Limited with extensive experience in guiding undergraduate, postgraduate, and PhD students. Her work spans across electronic designs and healthcare sensor development, with a particular focus on mental health. Today, we'll discuss how technology is shaping the future of mental health diagnostics, including her work on innovative device for early depression diagnosis and a chatbot for detecting cognitive impairment. Let's dive into this fascinating conversation. Dr. Joshi, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Kostubi.
So, ma'am, my first question to you is mental health diagnosis has traditionally relied on subjective assessments. How do you see technology improving the accuracy and accessibility of mental health diagnostics?
Yeah, Kostubi, I would like to first tell what is this subjective assessment to our viewers. Suppose if I have been asked some questions, and then if I answer them, like how do you sleep today, or how are you feeling hungry, are you feeling energetic? So, all these questions, if someone is answering positive or negative, there is no way we can check it. Suppose if a person wishes to avoid certain ordeal like appearing in court or maybe going for a police case and all, so that person would very easily prove himself or herself mentally depressed or having some kind of mental illness. So that person would always say, okay, I don't feel hungry, I didn't get a good sleep, and all such answers, which may not, there is no way how we can cross check or validate what he is talking. But whereas through physiological parameters, we can cross check the mental illness. Basically, we know that we say that a healthy mind resides in a healthy body. I would say vice versa also. Because if your mind is healthy, then your body is healthy. And if your body is healthy, then your mind is healthy. So this is how I would say this subjective assessment is not a very right way. But whereas physiological parameters can always give an index of your health as well as your mental health. Because if you are mentally not very at ease, that time your blood, your cholesterol levels, your blood sugar, your BP, arterial blood pressure, your skin, so many parameters, sleep also, so many parameters are getting affected, and in the long run they would affect your heart also and many other metabolic systems. So we see this in case of homeopathic treatments and all. They always go for asking you questions about your mental well-being. So this is how I see that subjective assessment is not a very right tool, whereas physiological parameter assessment along with the doctors and psychiatrists would always work in a full circle type of a diagnosis.
Right. So, according to you, from a research perspective, what are the biggest challenges you face in using technology for mental health assessment?
Yeah, first of all, mental health assessment is a taboo in every society, be it a Western society, developing country society, any countries. Mental health has always been a taboo. Okay, society is okay till approving that the person is having mental depression, but beyond that, any other illness, people not are ready not to accept that. So it becomes very difficult with the social stigma. And along with that, researchers who are working in their own area, suppose a doctor may be a very expert in the psychiatry department, whereas an engineer may be a very expert in working on devices and sensors and all that. But they need to break the silos and come forward, understand each other jargons. And then this way they have to break the silo, and doctors and psychologists, they should use this technology as a tool.
Ma'am, what inspired you to explore mental health applications within the field of electronics and sensor designing?
Yeah, actually, medical electronics is always a field of fascination. Sensors are also very interesting technology. But along with that, while doing my PhD study, I was reading books like Chicken Soup for Cancer, Soul, and all that. And in that, I found that, okay, the mental alertness and positivity of your mind is very important. We also now know the power of subconscious mind and all that, we the things we understand now. But that time while I was doing PhD, I was not much aware of it. And if this is the case, suppose if there are so many things which are happening in your mind, how do you try to map them is an important question. And I found a paper. In that paper they had mentioned that heart and brain, they are highly correlated. So if there is a, say, a kind of anomaly or a dysfunction happening in heart, it will repercate or manifest itself in the brain. So in this way there was a constant complex interaction with that, so I was fascinated with that paper. So being a student of medical electronics, always physiological parameter mapping is a question of interest for me. So this is how I started exploring this more and more.
Ma'am, speaking of that, you worked on a device that maps frontal lobe power levels to detect early stage depression. Can you explain how this technology works?
Yeah, actually, this is a work of my PhD student, Dr. Avinash Tandle. He was working in NMIMS University's Engineering College. So there he was working using music as a tool to map mental depression. And through his study, he found out, he made a very breakthrough study. And he found out that, okay, among all the 24 EEG sensors which have been applied to the brain, only the frontal lobe power changes its level, elevates or increases the level if the person appreciates the music. So this is a very breakthrough finding out, research contribution that he had found through his PhD study.
So, ma'am, how does this device compare to traditional diagnostic tools like Hamilton Depression Rating Scale?
Hamilton's depression rating scale, again, as I just spoke in my first answer, it's a subjective tool. So again, there are questions, there are lengthy questions, and all those questions person has to answer. And many a times people will goof up, or sometimes people even try to stop that, because in any person who is mentally ill is not in a mental condition to write so many big answers. So it's not a very user friendly, patient friendly, and also a dependent tool. So instead of that, if we use physiological parameters like this powers of, say, which are there in EEG, so those frontal lobe powers can be useful in identifying the mental depression.
So, ma'am, do you see this device being used in clinical practice or home monitoring or both?
Yeah, actually, if there is some home monitoring, person wants to know how whether he is depressed or not during, because times are difficult with pandemics and loneliness and so many things. So in that case, this home device would work, so that person understands, okay, I am under depression. So that's a big finding, and he can work across. And then even for doctors, they can use it. Further treatment and everything is depending upon the psychiatrist, psychologist, counselors, everything. Engineers do just the job of diagnosis. So this kind of a device will be very much helpful at personal level also, and in clinical practices also.
Right. So, ma'am, your second project involves a chatbot designed to diagnose cognitive impairment. How does this chatbot function?
Yeah, Kaustubi, first I would like to answer what is cognitive skill. So
Exactly.
basically, mental agility and mental alertness are the two parameters which contribute a lot for cognitive skills. Suppose if I am not having any mental burden or any kind of a stress, then the way my brain functions will be very different than if I'm working under stress. So cognitive impairment occurs if there is a trauma, if there is a some loss of a person in your personal life, there is some loss if you are working, some harassment in your work life, depression, accident, many parameters, many causes are there for this cognition loss. Okay, so if we try to get, or yeah, even they are the source or the early stage indicators for Alzheimer's and dementia. So since our now lifespan has increased so much, Alzheimer people are falling prey to Alzheimer's and dementia, and that's a very serious complication. So if we know there is a cognitive loss impairment, again with the help of a psychiatrist and psychologist, we can do many more things. So this kind of a chatbot, it beats the social stigma, and you can on your own find out that you have a mental cognition loss.
So,
Yeah.
ma'am, how do you see this technology evolving in the next 5 years?
Yeah, because now society is looking at mental diseases very seriously. People are accepting, okay, it's okay to have depression or some kind of a mental illness. So people are open for that. And again, this entire landscape of apps is doing a great work. So through apps, you can monitor your personal health as well as your personal mental health also. So in coming next 5 to 10 years, there will be a lot of change, and a lot of people will accept such tools which are trying to diagnose your mental cognition level, maybe your mental depression through this music therapy and all these things. They will be gaining a lot of impetus. Yeah.
So, ma'am, are there any upcoming projects you're excited about in the field of healthcare technology?
Actually, in healthcare technology with growing electronics, because electronics has reached such a level that you can actually play with the sensors, and you can devise any kind of physiological sensing. So that's a wonderful thing. So many more devices can come up. Actually, I am working on a device right now which is trying to sense the electrolytes, that is the sodium and potassium levels in your blood. So a lot of exciting things are happening. People are working with lot of many new developments in this area. So I look at it at a very positive level, and maybe we don't know, like how AI is proliferating in our lives, apps, and along with that, these sensor based apps will also proliferate in a great extent.
Right. Ma'am, how can researchers, healthcare professionals, and tech developers collaborate more effectively to bridge the gap between technology and mental health?
Yeah, first thing is quality improvement of quality of life is one kind of a motivation for them to work together. Money and visibility is another way. So for any researcher who wants to do something will always feel, okay, I want to do something that is breakthrough. Okay, so this kind of a challenge or this kind of a motivation should take them ahead. But again, breaking the silos is a challenge, because if I want to understand your language, and suppose you are say a counselor, so for me it's a challenge to understand your language, so I will have to put in some kind of hours to understand what is your field about. So if people are ready to do that, and if they do, these silos can be easily broken.
Right. So, ma'am, is there any message you would like to give our viewers about mental health and how everything in this field is developing and how we can trust technology for our mental health?
See, there is a very interesting saying the CID Pradyuman says, "Jhoot murde jhoot nahi bolte." So similarly, I would say physiological parameters never lie. So you should rely more and more on your physiological parameters than on what you feel at the moment. Sometimes you may feel depressed, sometimes you may not. So there could be change. And if there is a sustained mental illness, that will manifest itself into change in the physiological parameters. So researchers should come up and work on that. We need many much young energy working into this. So people like you who are having lot of energy should always work on such areas and come up with some breakthrough findings. That's what I would like to say to our viewers.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So, ma'am, this has been a truly enlightening to learn about your work in using technology to improve mental health diagnostics. Your contributions to early depression detection and cognitive impairment screening have the potential to transform mental health care. Before we sign off, is there any message you'd like to share with aspiring researchers or anyone interested in mental health and technology?
Yeah, people who are working in specialized field like mental health, this one, mental health analysis and all that, they should always look for some technological tools, because physiological parameters are available now with the developed sensor technology. So they should take it as a tool, effective tool for diagnosing. And further work is theirs; they have to take care. No one is going to replace anyone, but diagnosis can be much better using such tools.
And for those who want to follow your work or learn more, where they can reach out to you.
They can reach out to me on, shall I give my mail ID in the chat box, or I would just say that? So it's
You can just
MJ, yeah, it is MJ, MANJUSHA 12 at the rate gmail.com. So they are always welcome to message me in whatever context they want my help, I would be supportive.
thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you once again, Dr. Joshi, for joining us today. And to our listeners, Stay tuned for more conversations on the future of mental health and technology. Until next time, take care and keep exploring the possibilities of innovation.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.